Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast. Fitz and Gills and the two newbies. That's right. If you missed the announcement, Jake Stevens and Grant Snowden have joined us at Go Powercat for this upcoming year. They got a little early jump. They'll be involved in spring football. Thus, they are here part of this podcast. And then we will naturally break into VIP session like the school board and discuss a VIP topic for our subscribers at gopowercat.com. And if you're not subscribing, please consider doing so. We are at 50% off right now with the transfer portal open. So perfect time to go get that done. And you just pointed out that my tweet about a portal move wasn't exactly true, Ryan Gilbert, but we had someone go into the portal and find a new school. It just wasn't a player. Since that's breaking, you want to discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, let's go for it. Go ahead. Are you throwing it to me?
Yes.
Yes.
That was
Uric.
cake.
Uric to Texas is the first of the moves on the coaching carousel, and I don't expect that to be the last, but still no players as of this second, but I'll be checking my phone here as I think by the time we're done recording, there might be some moves there player-wise, but yeah, Uric is gone, and so be sure to keep an eye on Go Powercat for some potential coaching hires as well.
Yep, a tremendous man. Wish him luck at Texas. Grant, Jake, how do you feel being on the team here? You've already been introduced to the text group, which is weird because I'm in it. But welcome to the team. It's great to have you guys. You did a great job with Kevin over at the rival site. We brought you over through our own version of the portal, and it's good to have you. You bring a great deal of diversity in your skill set and a little experience, so welcome to the team.
Yeah, excited to be here for sure. I mean, like you said, we kind of were the kickstarters for the spring portal. It felt like over at Go Powercat, we were kind of the first ones to make a move, but just super excited to be here, super thankful for you guys, and I'm excited to get to meet all the new viewership and all the new audience that we've got to interact with. Very exciting stuff.
Grant?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me on, and excited to be a part of the team over here at 24/7. All thanks to Kevin and those guys over at Rivals, but really looking forward to getting to know all the viewers and members over here at 24/7 and interact with you guys and kind of give me and Jake's opinions, thoughts, and write up some good stories, hopefully.
Yep. Well, let's get going and let them get to know you and start this process. We got 5 questions from Wabash Station, and as I mentioned, the 6th that will be in VIP session for our subscribers. But here we go. Sounds like a lot of coaches are not happy with roster changes in the spring portal. What should or can coaches do collectively to make their voices heard? That's from Gillum fan 67663. And I need to check. Why do I suspect that is actually Hayden? He's just, I'm a fan of Hayden. It could be me. I don't know. It'd be like him, though, to do that. I thought Chris Kleiman's opening comments were interesting. They didn't answer my question. I asked a question about his strange scheduling of spring football, and he went off on this rant, and it was a really good rant. It's been picked up by a lot of members of the media, and I think he said some really important things there. I think at the end of the day, you've got the settlement going on here with the lawsuit, the House case. You've got the NCAA trying to sort out how to handle all this, and I guess I missed this part of the House case that they ruled there cannot be scholarship limits. I don't know how that can be ruled. I mean, is that true for engineering scholarships? I mean, I don't understand that part of the ruling, but as a way to address that, the NCAA said, okay, we can't limit scholarships. Here's a roster limit. And unfortunately, that affects walk-ons. Grant, you were briefly a walk-on. So let's just get into this. Grant, let's start with you. How do you feel about all this stuff going on? And we can get into what the coaches can do here in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really kind of shocking announcement, I thought. I mean, not only have coaches been making their voices heard, but on Twitter earlier, I saw the likes of Devin Aintel and Dalton Schoen making their voices heard. I mean, those are a couple of walk-on guys that had, a tremendous effect here at Kansas State. And I know for a kid like me, I could have went and played at the likes of Drake, Pitt State, Missouri Western, but I was from Manhattan, loved the school. I wanted to be a part of a program here, and with that 105 limit size, I never would have got that opportunity. So not only is this going to affect coaches, how many players they can have on the roster, guys that could be able to practice, give a look on the scout team, it's going to affect a lot of high school kids like myself that just love this university and want to give back. So, previous players, guys like me, coaches, all making their voices heard right now. So kind of curious to see what the NCAA is going to do in terms of this lawsuit.
Jake?
And I think, too, one thing that, has been echoed a lot on Twitter, too, is that K-State has always kind of based themselves off the idea of the walk-on. Like, it's what Bill Snyder did. He grew this idea of you don't have to be a 4 or 5 star to come play here. We recruit in-state better than a lot of schools in the country, and we recruit the lower-ranked guys and the lower-talented guys. So it really kind of feels like it stings just a little bit extra to the schools that are like us, and especially us, because K-State's foundation is off of the kids that aren't going to have the chance to play here anymore. So it's kind of a little bit of a stinger, and we'll see what happens. I mean, the more that the outreach is from the coaches and the players, we'll see if that changes anything. But it does just kind of sting a little bit.
Yep, I agree.
It's a good word. Yeah, it stings. And it's going to affect, each program around the country a little bit differently maybe. But for Kansas State, it has such a large impact given obviously the history and the way that they want to develop guys. You go to different programs maybe that are utilizing the portal a bit more, that they're just getting older, experienced players in the depth, those third stringer special teamers, redshirt guys, practice, guys, maybe they don't matter as much, but Kansas State, man, Chris Kleiman, obviously not just him, but the university with Snyder has valued that so much. So it's a good word. It's a good word you use, Jake. It stings.
Yeah. I wish the College Football Coaches Association would get together and offer hard and fast feedback, not say we're unhappy. Here's what we want. We want the spring period here. We want this done this way. This is how we want to handle this House ruling. Because Chris Kleiman's right. They've had no voice in this. This has gone through courts and lawyers and administrators. And at no point that I know of has anyone stopped and said, well, what actually works? I mean, how can this be implemented? And Chris Kleiman said this at the press conference on Wednesday. We had no input, and we wish they'd stair-step this in. But the problem with that is this isn't actually a roster limit. It's a scholarship limit. I mean, it's just a way of getting around a asinine judge's ruling on this. I simply don't understand why there should be an unlimited number of scholarships. I don't get that. Maybe he's ruling for the programs that want to offer those, but that's what the NCAA was trying to prevent, because if you stair-stepped it from 115, let's say this season, Ohio State's offering 115 scholarships, period. End of story. That gives them a huge advantage in recruiting. And I think they were trying to avoid that and make everyone happy, and they've made no one happy in this process.
I agree.
Thank you. That was good.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Couldn't have said it any better there.
You guys, if you want to keep Fitz happy, if he says something, just say, I agree.
Agree with me on everything, and the raises will just roll in. They'll probably be like, I bought you a beer, but that's kind of like a raise.
That's more than a raise.
This whole thing is a mess. It's all set off by the courts. The fans are the losers. But I want to touch on this walk-on thing here. I'm going to skip ahead to another question. What could practice squads look like at the college level from Powercat? This was something Chris Kleiman brought up. Can we have practice squads? And in the brief reading of what the ruling was, I say no. I mean, but women's basketball has a practice squad. I mean, I've brought that up before. Those kids don't demand to be on scholarship. They don't need to be. What are we doing here? But if you could have a 10, 15-man practice squad, you're not a player on the team. You're a practice player. And you know that going in, which, Grant, I would say you would agree with that. As a walk-on, you probably know you're going to do a whole lot of practicing and not much playing when you arrive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, that's part of the deal. You're trying to prove you deserve a scholarship. And I would think a practice squad, if you could get around the ruling in some way, would be a way to address this. I was going through the list of guys. I think both the guys you mentioned, I think they would have ended up on the 105 man. I don't see K-State backing away from the walk-ons as much. They might actually come on a scholarship. Look like a guy like BJ Finney, who came in as a walk-on. They knew he was good. They got him as a walk-on, and he turned out to be tremendous. And as a true freshman walk-on, they knew he'd be the starting center the next year. That guy's going to be on scholarship. So when we say walk-ons will be gone, it's entirely possible 10 former walk-ons end up on scholarship. So it doesn't really change what kind of player they are. It just kind of changes the story. And I don't know if that'll even be approved. It seems like that would make a lot of sense to protect athletes from injury and do some other things here. 105 players for a college football team isn't that many. Between development of players that aren't ready to play at this level, injuries, academics, other stuff, it's going to get ugly. It's just not enough. And I don't know what they're going to do, but what are your guys' thoughts on practice squads?
I think, go ahead, Gills.
No, you're good, man. Newbie, go ahead.
I think you had a really good thought there. I think that you talk about, how 105 isn't really that many. And then you factor in everything that's going on for a student athlete in college, that people are trying to make college football, and it's the outside people are trying to make college football almost a semi-pro sport. And I think this is one thing that nobody thought of when taking someone who's a student athlete and making it a semi-pro sport. Nobody's thinking of the actual life side of college, where you have to still go to class and you have to still get your grades, and then there's injury, and then there's underdeveloped players to add on top of it. But 105, really, if you've got a couple guys failing classes, they can't play or whatever it may be, these outside circumstances, you can't make college a semi-professional athletic space. And I think this is one way that got severely overlooked in terms of trying to pay athletes and make it like just a speed boost to the NFL and get guys paid earlier. They just way overlooked this. And I think that could be something that I haven't even thought of, Fitz, but that's a really good point in terms of what this could look like.
You mentioned NFL, Jake, and that's kind of where I was going to go. There's only 32 teams, and it's very, very, very tough to get your foot in the door, even on the practice squad. You ask anybody who has aspirations of playing in the NFL, they'd be just overjoyed to get on the practice squad. That way you're given an opportunity to work your way up and showcase your skills. Well, if you were told that, hey, you can be on this Kansas State practice squad, you might have a chance to be elevated, you might have a chance to work your way up. Do you think that anybody in their right state of mind would do that, or would they go into the transfer portal where the grass is always going to probably be greener in their mind? They can maybe be promised more playing time, more opportunities, albeit at a lesser school. Practice squads, man, it just seems like a disaster for the college level in my eyes.
Interesting. This is my question. The NFL, you lose 3 linebackers to injury in week 3, you can go out and sign linebackers. I mean, that's the missing part of this equation. You can't go recruit in the middle of the season and go bring in some new players. You need to have an area of your roster where you can promote players, and that would be a practice squad. Because as we all know, Grant, this is kind of inevitable. You end up with injuries at one position. Injuries are never spread out over your roster. One year it was the linebackers for K-State. We've seen it at receiver. We've seen it at other spots. Injuries seem to attack a position group just by chance. And a practice squad would allow you to have guys that you could elevate to be special teams players, depth players, whatever. But I don't know. Grant, I just don't see the courts or anyone approving that. But I do see an opportunity here for potential walk-ons to have their own lawsuit. And God knows we need less lawsuits, but they are being deprived of opportunity now by this court.
Yeah, 110%. And walk-ons are taking a major blow. And do I think there will be practice squads right away? No. Do I think the NCAA is going to pass that? No. But, I mean, when I played, I think our roster size was around 120, and there was 40 or 50 of us. Our meetings were called practice squad meetings. I mean, we knew we weren't going to go out there on Saturdays and play, but I was going to kick off balls in Malik Knowles and Phillip Brooks and try and work my way up to second or third string. And there was guys running down there trying to make a play. So do I think we're going to get practice squads right away? No, but walk-ons is going to look a little bit different. So I'm just really curious to see how this kind of goes down, because there's plenty of guys still at K-State like me. They're not going to play on Saturday, and now there's going to be 15 more of them that are going to get cut. So really curious to see how this kind of all plays and what Kleiman wants to do, what the coaching staff wants to do. And like you said, I really hope the coaches, whole NCAA coaching staffs get together and just kind of talk about this.
Yeah, I feel like this is being so rushed because now there's counter lawsuits where we're not even, like Chris Kleiman said, we're not even sure this is going into place April 7th if it's going to be fully approved. So this is just, I keep using this word in my daily deliveries. This is gross. I'm tired of this nonsense. Let's go on to the next one here from Go Uper Cat. Does anyone know what a Uper is?
Mm-mm.
I'm worried that he's so fanatical about Upers. In cutting the roster down to 105, exactly what role does Clint Brown play? Does he actually advise on roster decisions, and are his duties more administrative? This is, of course, the new, what is his title? Director of Roster Management?
Yeah.
Uper, he will have more say than everyone else on the staff not named Chris Kleiman. This is his job. This is literally what his job is about, is sorting out roster. What do we need through the portal? What do we need through high school? How do we balance our positions? Because now at 105, brothers, you better have your roster balance. You better not have 30 offensive linemen, or you're just going to be in trouble. And that's something that I think K-State's going to address with their cut down to 105. If you're an offensive lineman at K-State that hasn't been playing after a few years, gird your loins. You're about going to be hit with bad news here pretty soon. So, but yeah, no, Clint Brown has a lot to say. And I think there was a missing item in Chris Kleiman's staff, how it was constructed. And I think he was ready to walk away from this because there was such an overload. There's still an overload. He's not really coaching football now. He's doing all these kind of things. But Clint Brown's taken a lot of that off of his table and let him worry about it and then run it all through Kleiman at the end. Any thoughts on the Clint Brown question? Clint, cheers to you. Nobody likes to talk about you.
You're doing a great job, Clint. You've got to have, right, somebody like that. And I know that Tang has talked about that with hoops, and they've maybe explored that, and they're flipping over those rocks. Nothing is obviously official as far as like a GM goes, but the less that you have to worry about that, you can kind of just focus on your team, and you can go to Clint and say, hey, this is what I want. What's going on here? That makes your job as a head coach a lot easier.
Yeah. And it really pays off at camps and when they're evaluating. Clint's just kind of a walking encyclopedia of their roster needs. So no, he has been a great addition, and he will be very important in this process. On we go to the next one from Wyatt Bullinger 15. The first 14 were good, but I think the 15th one is probably the best Wyatt Bullinger we've had. How different do you expect the offense to look compared to recent years with Matt Wells taking over at OC? There's been a lot of talk about this. Grant, give it a shot. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the obvious in the room that Matt Wells is a pass-heavy, offensive-minded coach, and I think that's going to be the biggest difference. When you think of Kent State University football, you think of the beef and you think of the running backs that are, we're going to run down your throat all game long. So I think it's going to be a little bit more pass-heavy this year. I think K-State's had the best tight end room they've had in arguably, the history of the football program. And you're bringing in a guy like Lincoln Cure, and you've got the likes of Garrett Oakley and Braden Lofton and Will. I mean, there's really no limit to what can be done with this team. And outside of the tight end rooms, I'm not sure Kansas State's ever had more speed than we have right now. And I think that's going to be really fun to see. I think we're going to have more offensive sets to show it some people. I think we're going to shock a lot of people this season. We're going to be a tough team to scout this season for sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jake.
I think there's going to be a lot of times that Grant, like you said, and in his press conference, Kleiman kind of noted that it's not going to be a wholesale change in offense. We're not going to be an air raid team. It's not going to be 5 out every play. But I think you're going to see a little bit more of it because if teams are having a game plan for a heavy look with a couple of tight ends on the ball, and I mean, you've got all sorts of good blocking tight ends, and then all of a sudden you spread them out and you've got Dylan Edwards in one slot and Lincoln Cure in another slot, and you've got height mismatches, you've got speed everywhere. You've obviously got one of the fastest, if not the fastest quarterbacks in the country with the ball in his hands every play. I mean, you've got loads of speed. You've got really good blocking. So I think this is just more than anything, it's going to be more of a diverse offense than we've seen. It's not probably going to be as run heavy as in the past, but I think it might just look different in the run game. It might be more spread out in the run game. It might be more outside runs than inside runs. But it should be a little bit faster of an offense, I think, is what we're going to see more than anything.
Yeah, it's what I'd like to see more pressure just kind of being applied to defenses. And Avery, you guys said, throwing it more, right? Airing it out more. Yes, absolutely. But also with Avery's legs, man, Kansas State did not fully utilize that. Now, was Avery hurt? Were they trying to protect him? That's neither here nor there. Avery Johnson's a much more capable runner of what, we saw in that Texas Tech game on the road in 2023, right? When he had 5-6 touchdowns, right? Like, he's capable of a lot more. And last year, I think you can try to get back to that. And last year we didn't see it, but yeah, Jake, you mentioned like does a run up the middle and ice up the middle. Does that really apply a ton of pressure on your opponent? Not really. I mean, obviously you can win games doing that by all means, but Dylan Edwards, that's not where his bread gets buttered, right? You got to get him moving outside motion, jet sweeps with all these wideouts and stuff, and really just keep the defense on its toes, right? And that's not to say that Connor Riley was a negative in that regard, but I think Matt Wells can elevate the offense to a whole new level with maybe his mind.
I'll be really interested to see, because I think we all misread the Connor Riley, how he would approach the offense. He wanted to diversify, spread the ball around, but as a play caller, he realized handing the ball to DJ Giddens works. You pick up first downs, you score points. It isn't flashy. I know my offensive line, and I think that was a factor as the O-line coach. I know what they can do, and being able to open up in the interior, those interior gaps, yeah, they can do that. Let's do that. And I think he got too involved with that. The entire offense was predicated on establishing that interior run game and then building off of it. And I feel like this year it could be the opposite. You're going to try to stretch the field sideline to sideline, stretch out that defense, and then get back to the interior run game. But mostly I think Matt Wells, with his background, is going to try to spread personnel a little bit. I mean, we often saw K-State line up with, 2 wide and 9 guys that could all die with one hand grenade. I mean, they were all just packed in there together. And I don't know that that's an effective way to attack a defense for the Kansas State Wildcats. One, defenses might just out-muscle you at the point of attack. Also keep this in mind. Not only is Connor Riley gone, there's a new offensive line coach and maybe new philosophies on how to handle these things. But when you've got speed like Avery Johnson and Dylan Edwards and Jace Brown and other dudes, you want to get them in space. And putting them in a position to run where the most players are located doesn't make sense to me, except as a curveball. And the fastball needs to be thrown outside a lot. And they've got some real weapons that they can use. Now, this is all conjecture. We're not going to see any play calling in practice. We're just going to have to go off of what we're being told, what's happening in practice, and what the coaches and players tell us in press conferences. But I think the offense will be, I don't want to say more fun, but more diversified. And maybe they'll put up the same amount of points, same amount of yards. It'll just be more fun getting to that point. But also when you run it outside or throw it more, you're more prone to mistakes. And I think K-Staters better be ready for that.
Yeah, Avery needs to prepare for that, man. Avery, if that's probably the biggest knock of his season last year, was those turnovers and just some of those decisions, and maybe he just missed on a ball, right? And, there's a number of reasons that go into some of those picks that he threw. But yeah, if you want to, go with these high reward plays, Fitz, yeah, it's going to have a high risk.
I go back to the bowl game, post-game press conference, and I asked Avery about that throw. And it's like he knew how stupid it was, because, there was a defender between him and the receiver, and he still threw it. And I think he realized before that this was a problem. He was making up his mind before reading the defense. But I think that throw in particular in the bowl game really focused that in his brain, that I'm getting ahead of my reads. I'm getting ahead of where I should be throwing the ball because I'm making up my mind too quickly. So hopefully now with the quarterback coach that is your offense coordinator, we'll see a little bit more polishing on that. One final one, and I kind of like this because I feel like we finally transitioned to football talk with yesterday's press conference. Iowa State game, win or lose? Does it predict the outcome of the season from TMAC 77? I would usually say no, one game doesn't. Guys, I got a feeling this game's really important. The winner will be on really good footing, and the loser will be playing catch-up. And you can play catch-up. You're down one game in conference play. It does not ruin your season, but it sets a tone when it's the first game of the season. So I feel like the winner will be at an advantage. Who's got thoughts?
Well, Tulane, you lose that one and you still go out and win the Big 12. So I would say no, but that's a non-conference game. And so obviously morale and the attitude of your team, if you lose, isn't going to be great. But, standing wise against what is going to be one of the best teams in the Big 12 with Iowa State, right? That's going to hurt. So in more ways than one, that stings. And I think it's just one game. It's easy to just maybe brush it off, and you can bounce back against Army, in some of those non-conference games. But, man, I mean, that's tough to dig yourself a hole, obviously mentally, but in those standings in the Big 12, I don't want to say it makes or breaks the season because Chris Kleiman, that's one thing that, it seems like every year there's one of those losses, whether that be early or late in the season, that are just kind of stingers, and they're able to bounce back. So I don't want to say it's completely going to write it off, but man, you're digging yourself a deep hole if you do lose that game out in Dublin. And guys, there's going to be Jake. Are you going? But I know Grant's going. Me and Fitz will be there. There's going to be a lot of purple, right? Obviously outside of the fan base, the pulse might lose its luster if there's a loss as well.
Okay, hold on. Jake, you're not going?
Mm-mm. Nope.
Grant, you are going?
I am.
Cole is going. Jake, you're in charge. When we're in Ireland, you're in charge.
Should we just we can shove Jake in our suitcases. Pretty fit.
Yeah. Hey, Jake, do you just want to come over and dog sit and work from the studio? That sounds good.
There you go.
Works out great for me.
Yep.
Guys, how do you feel about this game, though? How important is it?
I think one thing that Gilbert noted there early on was that if this was a game against one of the bottom feeders of the Big 12, it's a different feel. But this is a game that going into the preseason, you've got two of the most heavily favored teams in the conference playing in this game. So if you lose this game, you're playing catch up against a shortened version of the conference almost, because you assume, and it's hard to assume in the Big 12 that always feels so wide open, but you start to assume that whoever wins this game is almost on a clear path to go into the conference title because it takes out arguably their hardest game of the season. So it makes your path to get to Texas a lot shorter, just because, I mean, you've got the likes of Arizona State up top, and really it's kind of K-State, Arizona State, and Iowa State all in that jumble amongst the top of the conference. So it would be a lot easier if you lose against the bottom feeder almost, but now you take that loss against a team that's got a good shot to make it to Arlington. So I do think this game probably makes or breaks the season a little bit more than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, Jake, you hit on a lot of good points, and so did you, Ryan. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but there's just no way around it. Iowa State's one of the premier football teams in the Big 12. And, as much as this game means, it quite literally does make or break the season, in my opinion. I mean, if you drop a game to Iowa State, you're going to be playing catch up, and that's a game you could need, in terms of like a tiebreaker, or you're floating around the top of the standings towards the end of the season. So this is going to be a big game for the Cats, and they better come out and be ready. But I think there's a lot of vengeance in that locker room right now. I know there was when I was there, and they've lost to them the last couple of years. So this is a football team that really wants to beat Iowa State, and it's not going to be on U.S. soil, but they really want to get this job done. So
here's the thing that people need to wrap their minds around. It's not just losing, it's who you lose to. And in a weird way, you're better off losing to Houston than Iowa State. And here's why. Oklahoma State proved it 2 years ago. They had a lot of losses in the conference, but they lost to bad teams, ironically. And that meant they owned tiebreakers over everyone. And they got into the championship game based on tiebreakers. So losing to Iowa State doesn't just lose you a game. It loses you a tiebreaker in all likelihood. You'll be fighting with Iowa State for something. If not a spot in the Big 12 championship, which would be kind of cool to start the game in Dublin, start the season in Dublin, and finish the season in Arlington with the same two teams. We'll see. That's entirely possible. but the loser of the game will be definitely fighting uphill because they've lost a tiebreaker. So, but we now with the unbalanced schedules of the conference, who knows where this will end up. Before I pop up the VIP question, I've got a very important Go Powercat question. We no longer do the overtime podcasts, RIP, because I got tired of doing it. But there's a long question, a long-standing question that I need to ask you guys because it's very important to who I am as a sports journalist. Ryan Gilbert doesn't have to answer this question because he doesn't eat hot dogs. But does ketchup go on hot dogs? No, Jake?
No, absolutely not. Give me relish, mustard, kraut all day long. I want no ketchup on my hot dog.
Grant?
I'm a ketchup guy. I like relish, kraut, but
I thought it was, is a hot dog a sandwich? Isn't that the old overtime question that we always would do?
Well, yeah, but this is important to me because now I got to let Grant go.
Yeah.
All right, Jake's house sitting now for me.
Yeah.
Hell, I might adopt him.
I thought I was your adopted son. You're taking me to Ireland.
No, I really regret all of that. Let's bring up the VIP question here. This is what we'll be answering in a separate podcast. It's only video and it's behind our paywall, appearing only at Go Powercat. Even our Go Powercat people are like, where's the podcast? Well, it's not on YouTube. It's just existing here on Go Powercat on the front page. Were you concerned? I left an hand in there with head coach Chris Kleiman's silence on how bad we were last year on special team. I don't know if that's from K-State brats or brats, but if it's brats, don't put ketchup on yourself. Don't do it. That's it for this version of the podcast. We'll be back with the VIP. We'll be back with more podcasts. I got 2 more guys to talk to now on the staff. I could do this all day. I don't have enough questions to do it all day. I just like to talk a lot. I'm full of bluster. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.